Hi everybody, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to be talking about my biggest misses of the year, my biggest disappointments, the worst books that I read, everything kind of in that category. Now, I will just go ahead and preface this by saying not every book on this list is bad. I am not saying that these are all horrible books. If I believe it's a horrible book, I will say so. But some of them are just ones that fell flat for me or that just did not hit in the way that I expected it to. So a lot of times reading is subjective and it is all up to interpretation. And these are just the way that I felt about these books. This is my interpretation. And I'm not trying to diss anybody's favorite book. These are all just my personal opinions. Please do not let me dissuade you from reading something or get upset if I say that your favorite book is bad. Because that's not really the way that I look at this, with the exception of maybe two on this list. They're just not my cup of tea. Okay, so we're going to start with a fun one. In the number 10 spot, we have The Other Emily by Dean Koontz. You guys probably don't know this because this kind of relationship with Dean Koontz started well before the channel. I am not crazy about him. I'm going to be honest. I'm sorry. I know that he is a lot of people's favorite horror writers, and I've heard a lot of people say he's right on par with Stephen King, which I am sorry. That is just not the truth. I can see why people would like him, but I haven't found anything that really speaks to me. I had previously read Icebound and Ashley Bell, which was like way back at the beginning of my channel, and I despised both of those. This time we got into The Other Emily. And the reason that I read this one, because I'm not sure if I've ever said this on the channel, but I have a 3-book rule where I will read at least 3 books by an author before I decide I'm not going to read them anymore, especially with prolific writers, because you can't like everything that everybody does. There's always going to be a miss in there somewhere. So I like to give authors, and particularly prolific authors, at least 3 chances before I make that call, just in case I got one that just happened to not talk to me. And I felt like in the beginning that The Other Emily was like giving me back faith in Dean Koontz. I was just like, okay, this is pretty good. I can get into it. Until a particular event happened, and I'm not going to state what that is, but it completely threw the book into a new genre. It was a twist that didn't really make sense, and it made the book now extremely weird, and I just didn't vibe with it. I just didn't. But that was my 3rd Dean Koontz, and I will no longer be reading Dean Koontz. I do give that one an effort, an A for effort for trying, because it's like it almost got me, but then it lost me. So what can you do? Number 9, we have The Tommyknockers by Stephen King, and this one doesn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me. I actually kind of went into it expecting it, because I have seen in multiple places where Stephen King himself said that this book was garbage and that he barely remembered writing it because it was at the height of his addictions, like way back in like the 80s. And he said himself that it wasn't a good book. But I knew I wanted to read his entire backlist, so I read it anyway, and I got to agree with him on it. This one was weird. It was messed up. It was very hard to follow. It didn't even feel like a Stephen King book to me. Like, it just, It was crazy and off the rails and not well written, and couldn't stand the characters. This was his alien book, I guess you could say. But was it really? It's just nothing that happened in this book was clear, and it was very problematic for me. And yeah, I was disappointed, but I expected to be disappointed, so that's why it's down this low on the list, because I'm like, it's not like I was expecting this big masterpiece. I kind of knew what I was in for. Number 8. I really hate to put this on here because I loved everything else that this author did that I read this year, but this one was a big no, and that was Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I just didn't vibe with this one. This one felt way too teen. And, like, I don't have a problem with young adult work. I wouldn't say that I read it all the time, but, like, I can read it and enjoy it. This one, though, it was on, like, a whole other level. It was just teen angst and just, like, teen obnoxiousness. I didn't really care about our main character. And, you know, it's like it started getting interesting, like, right at the very end. Like, I forget how many pages, like maybe 50, 60 pages. It started getting good and interesting. Like, there was a twist that I didn't see coming and I thought was extremely endearing. But up until that point, I just didn't care. It just felt like a bunch of teens running around not doing a whole lot of anything. And I didn't care about our main protagonist or her love interest. I just didn't care about either one of them. So this one was a big letdown for me. But I know that it's the first book of a series, and I'm torn onto whether or not I want to continue the series, because I did like the last part of the book, like the very last part. So I'm wondering if that's like setting up like the other books to be much better if it follows that twist and that like that storyline. So I might enjoy the other books better. I don't know. I'm undecided at this point. Number 7 goes to a very extremely recent read. That I have not discussed in any wrap-ups because I literally just got done with it. This was one of my holiday books. The first one that I actually read this year. And it was my most anticipated off that TBR. I was so excited for it. Santa Cruz by Fern Michaels. I did not like this. I was just so disappointed with it. It was not what it really advertised itself to be. And I'm going to go into it a lot more in depth in like my wrap up, and I might even do a full review for it. But basically, this is supposed to be about 4 friends that go on a holiday cruise together at Christmas time. And yes, a cruise does happen, but it's not until well into the book that they even go. And it doesn't have a lot of holiday vibes. It's like, yeah, there's a little bit of mistletoe here and there in a couple parts of the book, but that's about it. There's like no holiday feast. It's like there's no gift exchanges. There's nothing that really makes this feel like a holiday book at all. So it's like I feel like I was disappointed in both ways, where it was not a holiday book, and the cruise was significantly shorter than I thought that it was going to be. So it was a completely different book than I thought, and what was there, I didn't feel like was written well. It was just kind of a dumpster fire. Number 6 is another one that is probably going to shock a lot of people because it was very popular on social media, on BookTube, on Book Talk, on Bookstagram. It was everywhere. It was very highly regarded. I see the main couple in this is often like put up at the top of people's ranking lists. It was like, oh, like the best couples of the genre, whatever. And that is The Love Hypothesis by Hazelwood. And I have to disagree with all of the above. I did not think it was a good book. I didn't think it was well written. I hated the characters. I did not believe their romance. I couldn't really stand either one of them, especially Adam. I am so sorry, but why is this man shipped? Why do people want this man? Why do they want him with our protagonist? I don't get it. I don't really want to get it. I know I don't agree with it. I didn't think that they had chemistry. I didn't think the storyline was good. I thought that it was just a whole bunch of ridiculous incidents back to back making up this plot line. And nothing really made sense. It was just like a bunch of stupid cutesy stuff thrown together. And the romance was bad. It was not steamy, in my opinion. Sorry. Yeah, this one just fell completely flat for me. I really don't get what the big deal is about it. We are now into the top 5, and number 5 is more of a short story than it was a novel, which thank the Lord for that, because this was just bad. It was The Beach Haven by Grace Meyers. I will add that in post-production. I can't really remember. But this just follows a story of a girl that inherits a beach house from her uncle, and it's like he's also left part of it to this guy that she can't stand, and like they've known each other since childhood. And it was so cringy. It was so cringy. It was very, very short, and it wasn't enough time to really care about who got what, and like they both had despicable attitudes. So I'm just like, am I supposed to be rooting for either one of you? Like, I don't know. It wasn't an original story. Like, I've seen the whole inherited thing a million times before, done much better. And like I said, that weren't entirely likable characters, so I didn't really care what went on with them in any stretch of the imagination. Number 4 was another recent read, and this one was The Golden Couple by Greer, Hendricks, and Sarah Pekkanen. I want to say right off the bat, again, I do not necessarily think that this is a bad book, but I definitely thought it was pointless. So, what there was thereof was written well. But it just felt pointless. It was advertised as a thriller. It didn't really get thrillery until the very, very end. And it's just like things that I thought would have made the book more interesting never came to fruition. So it sucks. But we follow a very invasive therapist in Avery, and she is working with Marissa and Matthew to repair their marriage after an infidelity. And I would have loved for it to go more into her methods of how she really like ingrains herself into her clients' lives. But it didn't really go that direction. It was more like a whistleblower type thing in a completely unrelated case that was, that happened before the start of the book. And I'm just like, am I supposed to care about this? Because I just didn't. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's like, it was boring, I thought. It was written well, but it didn't feel like a thriller. It didn't really cover what it needed to cover, in my personal opinion. And, it's just, by the time I was done, I felt like I'd wasted my time. Number 3 is another one that will be controversial, If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. This book, like, I can see why people like it, because it's like, it did have interesting points in it, but, in this, like, we follow Oliver, and he is attending, like, a drama school, and one of the, like, one of their castmates or whatever dies, and, like, they all know something about it that they're keeping secret, and it's just all this drama that goes along with it, and it just ended up feeling very stale and boring to me, plus the twist at the end I felt like was very, very stupid and out of character, and it did nothing for the actual plot line. Like, it didn't do anything to enhance it, and it just, I didn't understand why this particular thing happened. So there is that. Number two. Number two is The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. If you guys watched my first 3 thriller reading vlog, you know very well how I felt about this book. It was filled with unlikable characters. I did not care about the mystery. There were too many people. It was boring. Everybody was nasty. There were open-ended plot holes left about entire characters that just never got answered. And I just wanted to bang my head off of a wall, and the only reason I finished that book was because I read it for a vlog. I would have DNF'd that so hard in any other situation. My number one biggest disappointing read is The Invisible Life of Addie Larue by V.E. Schwab. And if you watched my review of this, you'll know that objectively, I don't think it's that bad. I think it is a great premise. I think that the characters are done really well. Where I think this book suffers is with the cockiness of the protagonist and the ending, and how we went off in this whole tangent and followed a completely different character for like well over 100 pages, I think. And it wasn't even about Addie anymore at that point, and it was just, it had good ideas, but I didn't feel like the execution was very good. So it's like I was conflicted, because it was like, I like this about it, but then I dislike this. And it was just, overall, it felt very, very flat, and I still to this day rage when I think about the ending. Like, full on rage. It was bad, and I felt like I wasted my time sitting through that, because I'm like, that's what I get? That's the ending that I get? That's the reward for sitting through all these pages? And I go into it much more in depth in my review of that book, so I will link that down below for you. Go and check that out so you can see specifically why I had such a strong reaction to that book, but I don't want to talk about that here in case, in case you haven't read. Hi everyone. So I realized in post that I was a dummy, and I forgot to talk about an entire book that disappointed me, and it was a pretty big one, and that was The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I don't know. This was a recent read. I don't know why I left it off the list. I think that it just probably traumatized me so badly that I blocked it out. But I was looking through my channel and I saw the review for it. I was like, I can't believe I didn't put that on the list. So consider it an honorable mention. This list is going to be 11 books instead of 10, but that's okay. So in The House Across the Lake, we follow Casey, who has been banished to her family lake house after a very public drinking binge, and she becomes obsessed with her neighbor across the lake, Catherine, and decides that Catherine's husband has killed her. It is full of crazy leaps and jumps and twists that don't make a whole lot of sense, and it's like, it's boring in some spots, and other parts it's just completely confusing. There's plot holes, there's all kinds of craziness in this book. And I would easily say that's my worst book of the year. Like, I couldn't stop reading it, but it was horrible. I don't know what was up with that. I really don't. It was It was definitely bizarre, and I couldn't in good conscience put this video up without including that, because to me that was not just disappointing, it was downright bad. So, back to regularly scheduled programming. So, these were my top 10 disappointing, bad, worst books of the year, whatever you want to call it. That is all that I have for you guys today. If you liked this video, please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, follow me on the social medias, click that bell if you want to be notified of all of my upcoming videos, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!